It's crazy because you're still like super young. How old are you?
I'm actually 26 and three quarters, but I'm a little bit past the three-quarter mark now. So I'm really nervous. I turned 27 in exactly 2 months.
Young. So I just turned 30 in January and like 26 to go. I feel like you've lived 90 million lives, which is like why I wanted to have you on the podcast because I'm like, this girl for the like young age of 26 has lived a million lives. So from what I know, and then you fill in the details, but you were living with a boyfriend, you went through a breakup, you just bought a house, you've gone sober. It's like, what haven't you done? I feel like it's so wild.
It's literally like I remember during the pandemic, I looked at my brother and I was just like, when is it gonna stop? Like, when am I gonna have to like stop dealing with bullshit and like getting on the internet? Like, I've been getting on the internet since I was 16, being like, okay, guys, spoiler alert, like I'm depressed. And then it was like, spoiler alert, I'm this, like, spoiler alert. And I was just like, when is it gonna stop? And he was like, I think like you've made it, like you're through it and you've shared your story. And then boom, like 3 months later, like I get my heart broken and I have to like move and like all this shit. And I'm like, it doesn't stop. So, it's fine. We're all going to be fine. But I definitely feel like a grandma for sure.
But you talk so much about mental health, which I love. We talk about it a lot here. Have you always kind of dealt with mental health, like even from a young age? Or some people are like, I just started feeling it for the first time during COVID. I'm like, wow, must be nice.
Oh
Like
God, I
that it
know,
came on
right?
later in life.
I know it's like it's people are like I'm like I understand anxiety now, and I'm like, yeah, imagine what it's like for people that like already have anxiety, putting like the pandemic on top of it. I was like, at least you know what like our daily lives feel like now. But yeah, I mean, I had always struggled with mental health from like a younger age. And so when I started my YouTube channel, it was like also like everyone was kind of like being like super like perfect on the internet. And so I just felt like after I started gaining like a small following, I mean, at the time it was, quote unquote big, but comparatively to now, like, Charlie D'Amelio, it's nothing.
Hmm.
But at the time, like there were people that like quote unquote looked up to me and I just felt like a fraud. Like I just felt I can't put on this image and have girls think that this is something that they have to aspire to be like when like I'm not even like that. And so it just felt really inauthentic from like the get-go before there was any, chatter about authenticity on the internet. And so I like had always been dealing with it. And I pretty much like right when I was 19 started talking about it on the internet just because I wanted to, like make sure that girls knew that they didn't have to be perfect or aspire to be like me when like I wasn't even like the person I was pretending to be on the internet. And I mean, still to this day, like those are the DMs I get, and it just kind of like always resonates with like a why I keep doing what I do, and b that like it's I can stress so much about what outfit post I'm gonna do, yet like all my DMs are about like anxiety and stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's such a fine line because I feel like you could live a life that's like fun and liking fashion and being outgoing and doing all of these things, but like still battling demons inside. Like, I don't think they go hand in hand. And I think sometimes when people only show the good parts of themselves on social media, it's easy for the public to be like, wow, you're so lucky. You have it made. When it's like, yeah, like part of my life is that way, but like the other part of my life is like me in bed crying or like riddled with anxiety.
Yeah, I always say like even when I bought my house recently, I was like, listen, like I'm so grateful and so fortunate, and I like always just like to put it in perspective because I always say like I've been working since I was 16 years old. Like it took me 10 years to be able to afford a house. Just because I'm young, you have to put into perspective that this has taken me 10 years of my career. So just
Mhm.
it's just a different age. Like if you started your career at 26 and 10 years was 36, like it's still like the same accomplishment, I guess. And so I always
Mm.
just like to put it in perspective of like this is what's really going on, of like yes, I bought a house, I worked really hard, I'm very grateful, I know I'm very fortunate. However, like buying this beautiful house does not cure my depression, and like it shouldn't have to. Like if I'm saying like I'm crying in bed and you DM me saying, well, you have a beautiful house, it's like, okay, well, you clearly don't understand mental health at all. And it's
Yeah.
easy to put it in perspective when you think of like, because I even had that moment and I understand where people are coming from. You know, I saw that Kendall Jenner is doing some mental health series with Vogue. And, you know, for someone like me, I see that and like, I'm like, okay, well, that's kind of annoying because she's saying that, you know, she started having anxiety 2 years ago and now she's like this advocate for mental health. And then my logical side comes in, not like my human, natural, like ego, jealousy.
Mm-hmm.
Logical side comes in and I'm like, okay, she's like a really big celebrity. And I'm sure that she's actually raising awareness and getting the message out there just because she might not be what I think is the perfect spokesperson. I don't know her. Like, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure in her position, she has depression and anxiety. I would hate to be Kendall Jenner because that fame looks horrible. And so it's like, who am I to judge
Yeah.
and all that stuff? But I understand where like the ego and like the kind of trollness comes into play because I'm that bitch sitting on the couch being like, what the fuck? Like Kendall Jenner, I'm so jealous. So I get it.
Yeah.
Sorry, am I allowed to
Yeah.
share?
Oh, yeah, girl, let it out. I totally agree, but it's so funny because I sometimes look at celebrities and I'm like, they're the most unhappy
Oh yeah.
because like look at all of the child actors and like where they are now and what they've been through, like Britney Spears, Lindsay Lohan, Justin Bieber. It's like fame to me doesn't and money doesn't like equate to happiness. So I try to give everyone like a pass because I'm like, you don't know what it's like to walk in their shoes.